Okay, so we are recording. Jude.
All right.
Here
Greetings. Greetings from outer space.
What's that?
We're live from outer space.
We are live and we are doing well.
From inner space.
I got a bunch of stuff, but what I wanted to start the whole thing out with was the Bigfoot thing.
That's a good one.
All you. I didn't even know they had Where are you again? And you're in Moscow, or where are you?
I'm in Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay. Who knew that Bigfoot was out there?
Actually, Bigfoot is like a thing out here. Yeah, it's weird.
He's friendly and he's a drinker.
It's you see Bigfoot everywhere. It's stickers on the back of cars and in the woods, and it's almost more than New York.
It is, isn't it? It really is. What is well, we've had some Bigfoot stories that we've covered before, but what happened out there? What was who was it? Was it we have a video of it and we can show it.
Yeah, I did run into a fellow who claimed to have met Bigfoot. I happened to be shopping for like vintage thrifted items.
Yeah.
And there's one particular store in Des Moines that's pretty insane. Like if you just want like the feeling of Black Friday when everybody's like lined up outside of whatever the newest PS4 game station, blah, blah, blah. And when everybody goes trampling in. And so this place is like the main mecca of Goodwill where everything just gets dumped and sorted and then goes out to different Goodwills. So basically, if you walk into the store, there's just giant 20-foot long troughs of crap. And they go on your mark, get set, go, and everybody just kind of dives in. So so I'm there. I found this giant pair of boots, just happened to present themselves in front of me. So out loud, like any crazy old Jewish man, and I can say that because I am Jewish.
There we go.
And crazy. So I grabbed the boots, and they're probably like size 17, I'm guessing, like big, like Shaq size. So I make a dumb joke about, these would only fit Bigfoot. So then I hear this voice behind me that says, "Oh, well, I met Bigfoot." I mean, I was thinking it was the universe.
Yeah.
How often does this happen that you just
not
randomly say something and and he goes, actually, I shook his hand and I said, okay, hold on, slow down. I'm going to pull my phone out because, I like to interview interesting people. And if you met Bigfoot, I want to know about it.
Makes sense.
So, so this gentleman who I'm not sure actually if you decided to run the video or if you're going to run the actual video at some point. But I said, I want to capture this guy. And I said, please don't judge him on his exterior. I think you've seen the video, right?
I have. We're gonna.
Okay. All right. So I said, firstly, like, don't judge because that's what everybody wants to do when they first see the video.
And you know what? And I believe if aliens and Bigfoot are speaking to anyone, it's going to be the simple people. When I mean that living simple, easy, nice people, that's who they're going to go to. They're not going to go to people who are going to declare war on them and try and kill them. They're going to go to people who will accept them.
Yeah, that's not a bad theory. I don't think you're wrong. Yeah.
No, I think that's the way it goes. So.
And so I met this gentleman. I said, hold on. I started filming, and right away he's basically like, he met Bigfoot walking out of, I guess it would be in upstate New York. It'd be the equivalent of like a steward shop. So basically,
wait a minute.
Yeah. So, right. You think every Bigfoot story starts in the woods.
Yeah. Some White Claws. What was going on that he was in?
Right. So that's everybody's instant like assessment of the situation. But, I threw in a couple trick questions because I'm like, okay, there's a couple options here. A, he could be on hallucinogenics.
Mm-hmm.
Or, B, he could be seriously mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
C, he could be actually telling the truth. D, he could, and maybe this is where I kind of ended up settling, is that he could be I think this man genuinely believes that he saw Bigfoot, you know, and I'm not going to be the one to try to persuade him that he's, you know, living in Bigfoot land or not. So
maybe he had a moment, but that's interesting that he's pretty. I saw the video. We'll show it and
okay.
see it, and
and by the way, for anybody who wants to like instantly cancel this video or say that we're exploiting people who are maybe not at IQ levels above 70. I don't know what this gentleman's IQ was. I threw in a couple test questions and we can go over that or not, or you can all assess for yourself. But this gentleman actually wanted to authorize me to play the video. So
and he cleared it. He cleared
it, right. So I actually wasn't gonna post the video. I knew it would get a lot of reaction. I knew it's a cool story, but I was actually like, so it's good that it's going to happen here. But a simple disclaimer, he wanted a place that he could tell his friends to go to view this video.
Right.
So, yeah, he briefly describes, that's what one of the crazy things about the story is it's broad daylight. It's Des Moines is a population of about 1 million people. So we're not in a rural part of Iowa.
Like Albany. I mean, Albany's
it's Albany, right? Yeah, you could pretty much say, and honestly, even more diversity than Albany because it's a sanctuary city. So there's people from all over the world here. It's a conservative state, but I would say this city is pretty liberal and wild and crazy, you know. So anyway, this guy claims to have, he said basically, and I tested him. I'm like, oh, was Bigfoot shopping? Because an insane person would probably be like, Bigfoot was in there buying beer, right? That would mean you're either on serious drugs or you probably have a mental, yeah, you're right. So, and he said, no, he wasn't shopping, was as if I'm asking a dumb question. And he said he was walking out of Casey's, and that's when he saw Bigfoot crossing an intersection. So then my next question was, you know, well, was anybody honking or did anybody else
witness it?
Pictures, take the scene in?
Cameras, there should have been.
Right. And I said, were there police there? Because again, this is downtown Des Moines, and there are cops. It's not as bad as New York. They don't have the budget to spend on the police department. So the police don't follow you around, but there's a good amount of police. So I'm like, if there's a 9 foot, he said Bigfoot was about 9 feet tall and hairy. And I did ask kind of a silly question. I said, did he have an odor to him? And he said there was a slight odor. And and this gentleman,
Chanel number 5. I mean, what was it?
yeah. He was bourgeois.
What was it?
He was bourgeois Bigfoot. No, but this guy says he was a large, hairy creature. I said, did he speak English? And then in the video, the man kind of emulates what Bigfoot did, and he just goes,
like a chimp.
Something like that, yeah. And I said, could you do it again? And it was like, So he made these wild noises. And he said he actually shook his hand, which is pretty fascinating.
You want to know something? It's good it wasn't like a mating noise. That guy would be in big fucking trouble.
We didn't get into if there was any connection there or, you know, but yeah, that's a good thing because I would go running pretty quickly.
Wow.
But okay, so in this man's defense, he knew the date. He said it was the day before Mother's Day, I believe.
Well,
he knew the time. He knew it wasn't like normal to run into Bigfoot. He said there was no police. He doesn't believe anybody else saw him.
How can that be? A 9 foot furry shag rug walking around and nobody saw. It's interesting. Well, we'll play the video. Here it is.
Here, 2021, I was coming up from Casey's. I ran into Bigfoot and I got a handshake with him. Early handshake with him, with Bigfoot. Over there on Post Road.
Did he speak or no?
No, he said, "Whoa," that's all he said.
How tall was he?
Taller than both of us. 7'1".
Hairy?
Let people decide whether they believe the guy.
Yeah, you decide, you comment. Like I said, I chose option D. I do believe this man believes he saw Bigfoot. I don't know what he saw that day.
I know some people believe they've seen lots of things. I had an aunt who believed she could communicate with aliens and UFOs, and she could pull them down. And maybe she could, but she certainly believed it. Irish and lots of whiskey. So who knows?
It does help you. Sometimes you just have to lubricate the mind.
Yeah. Moving on from Bigfoot, one of the things I had a few things I wanted to talk about, but the big thing I wanted to talk about, I was in Miami.
Didn't you communicate with Mother Nature in a way?
I did communicate. Well, I thought it would be a great idea. And it's kind of awful because I would say I'm a bit of a senior hallucinogenic cowboy.
You wouldn't say.
Journey person, but
I didn't have a clue of that.
Yeah, but I took about maybe 1.5 grams of penis envy mushrooms, and I got in the water, which was it was very turbulent water. In other words, there was a stormy. The whole week was stormy in Miami out at sea, and they just weren't kicking in right away. And I was like, I'm just going to go in the water. And I went in the water, and when I was about 5 minutes into my aqua journey, those things kicked in. And
did you see the Lord?
I thought I was going to be one with nature. I thought I would be one with nature doing that. You don't want to do those things I wouldn't go on a roller coaster. I was in the water. It was a frightening experience. I thought I was about 200 yards from shore, and I was only 30 yards from shore.
Oh Lord!
So anyway, it was just a very. There was nothing about one. I got out of it, went to the pool, and just kind of let 4 or 5 hours rip by because it was pretty awful. But anyway, is
that the first?
It was really hot. It was a wonderful visit, and Miami's Miami. The pros and cons of Miami.
Was that the first negative mushroom, like psychedelic trip you've had?
It is, but
okay.
I blame myself for it. I was sweating in the water. I was in the water up to my neck, and I was sweating. I could feel it sweating. I was filling up the Atlantic Ocean. Sweaty body. It was awful. We got Eli here today, too. He's making sure everything we're saying is true, because at this point, especially at my age, I need all the help. Eli, say hello to everybody.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
There you go.
Yeah, and I'm
Hi,
just
Eli.
responsible to sweat in the ocean. I mean,
Well,
when you're already wet.
you're going to have to hit the shrooms
How
there.
can you tell that you're sweating when you're in the water?
It's just, I think you have to go through it. It's like one of those things. It's like going to war. You have to go through it.
You were on shrooms. So.
Yeah, so that had a big thing to do with it. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about was I saw Oppenheimer last night.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. I've heard so many great things about it.
Oh my God! I mean, let me tell you something. The whole thing was so fascinating. The entire team of guys that built the bomb were all Jewish guys. They were the top physicists in the world. These guys were so brilliant. But
I would have never guessed.
What's that?
I would have never guessed. All Jewish.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
And at the end, the government came after. Cillian Murphy played Oppenheimer, who was the guy in the Blinder, Peaky Blinder.
Oh, yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was that, and he also was a Scarecrow in the Batman movie. Christopher Nolan directed it, so it all made sense who was involved in it. But Robert Downey Jr. Was playing Lewis Strauss, who was chair of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. He became Oppenheimer's nemesis. After Oppenheimer did this whole thing and got the bomb done, and they did the test, and then they dropped it on Japan. they went after him. The government went after him. He was concerned that if they went to hydrogen, he could have done the hydrogen bomb. They didn't, because it was so dangerous and it would have destroyed the entire island of Japan. So they opted to go with a lesser bomb. And they brought him into a kangaroo court, and they proceeded to try and take away all his security clearances. And, you know, they were all involved at one degree or another in the Communist Party, not as sympathizers. It was just so many people involved. It was hard not to be associated with it at the time, between Hollywood and then all these scientists.
You're talking true history now, or you're talking in that film?
This is true history. This is true history.
And would you say the film was pretty representative of true history, or was
I do think it was. And there was one little kernel of information that I found the most interesting, and that was the fact that when this Louis Strauss which was played by Robert Downey Jr., when he was going for his appointment to some chair inside the U.S. government, what happened was they turned him down. So there was a parallel process going on, and people caught on to the fact that they were trying to destroy Oppenheimer. And 3 senators blocked his commission, this Strauss. Louis Strauss. They blocked his commission on this committee. And when they were in the room and he realized he had lost that, and he went crazy because Oppenheimer, he just had this thing for him. And it was all ego, everybody's ego. Oppenheimer really didn't have this gigantic ego that they thought he did. He was just a guy who came in, he did his job. They tried roasting him, saying he wanted to kill all these Japanese. I mean, this was America. Our military wanted him to do this.
Right.
But that was the beginning of the end. We were just talking about Kennedy. John Kennedy was one of the senators, one of 3, that said, you're not going to get this commission because I know what you did, what you're trying to do with Oppenheimer. You're trying to discredit him. And Kennedy believed he was a viable, useful person to our security. And no one liked the fact that Kennedy blocked blocked Strauss's rise to the top in the bureaucratic government at that time. So it was so interesting because the way Kennedy's been portrayed for years, you're starting to see more and more of what he really was. He was not a warmonger. He was totally against war. And, that was, you got to know the FBI, the CIA. We go back to all that.
Right.
Not like the fact that he voted against Louis Strauss, who was just an evil motherfucker. And Robert Downey, great job playing him. But in the end, I don't want to. The movie's worth watching. It was a great movie, and it was historically factual. But the thing that you begin to realize is Russia was the boogeyman throughout this whole thing. All of a sudden the arms race begins. Russia. And when you look at how they tried to hang Oppenheimer, it's not unlike what's happening to Donald Trump. Whether you like Donald Trump, don't like him. I mean, please give me a break. The guy's got 4. What's he got? 4? You like? Does he have 4? He's got 4 indictments against him.
Or 5, didn't they? I thought Georgia was. What was the latest?
Who knows? We've lost track. Okay. But are you kidding me? Do you really think that this guy, I just reached a point where I just don't believe anything going on in the media anymore. I just don't. The news is like something in the background you turn on. It's a bit entertaining. I don't give a shit whether you listen to Fox or you listen to CNN or whatever. But it's just the fact that this whole thing with Oppenheimer, if you watch it, they're doing the same thing they did. They use Russia as this thing to put you in a position where you're a sympathizer with Russia, and they just use the same shit over and over again. It was such an eye-opening movie, especially with what happened this morning. It's just this, the entire government's become weaponized. And what they don't want is outsiders coming in and being involved in the government.
Did they talk about the end of Oppenheimer's life in the movie?
You mean his death?
Yeah.
No, they didn't. He was receiving some honorary medal from the governments where they ended it. And it was kind of interesting because his wife He was shook hands with these guys. Everybody fucked him. Every one of his friends fucked him.
Right. Because in the end, didn't he basically regret ever doing it?
Yes, he said that.
Yeah. Okay.
He said that.
I haven't seen the movie yet, so
everything. But that historically, you're right. He did regret it. And everything that he also was. He quoted. He was the destroyer of worlds. That was actually a quote from another. I can't remember who did it. It was a philosopher or something.
Right.
He used that quote in a comment he made, and of course they used that against him. But I mean, he was pretty much on the money on that. I mean, look at what we've got going today.
Right.
You know, times we have 2 or 3 of them could wipe out our country, and right back at the Soviet Union. And it was just really an eye-opening. Nothing has changed. You know, after World War II, after Hitler, there was enough fear in the world that a lot of these acronyms, they call them the acronyms, the FBI, CIA, on and on and on, they all took over. They took over. And they took the population and then went and created, you know, this fear in society, and they were really successful with it.
So did they
use
Oppenheimer like a political pawn, kind of like he's stuck?
He was a political pawn.
Did he care either way, like politically, or like was he behind? Did he buy into the what they were selling?
He was Jewish, and originally when they started, the Germans were taking. It took them 3 years and $2 billion to make the bomb. And what really happened was they were hoping to drop that bomb on the Germans, and Hitler was defeated before they could do that. What everybody forgets is Japan was involved in the war, right? They had the whole, the South Pacific, and they were controlling that whole area. And what happened was they used a bomb, and they went to Hiroshima, and you know, did the number on Japan.
And we had already beat. Japan had already basically surrendered, right? Before we dropped the bomb.
I don't know. I don't know the timeline on that, but they.
I heard we basically dropped the bomb as a flex to Russia to be basically like, don't fuck with us.
You know what? There's some truth to that.
Yeah, and I was just watching. It was like History Channel, like a documentary on the war, and so I don't know if those documentaries are slanted one way or the other. They probably are, but
yeah.
I just happened to watch one that was basically like, yeah, the emperor, I think it was the emperor of Japan at the time, had actually surrendered. And I don't remember, there was a deal with like, he would kill himself. I don't remember. It was something crazy.
Well,
with the emperor.
you know what's what you're talking about there, the Japanese, Eli had been to Japan, right, Eli? He had been to Japan just recently on a what were you doing there?
I was an high school exchange student in Tokyo.
Okay, so he was right in the city of Tokyo, and but at that time during the war, they believed that their leader was a divine god.
Yeah.
Yes. By the end of World War II, the Japanese emperor was actually forced to denounce his divinity. And ever since then, Japan became an atheist society, not believing in any god. But they are faithful to their past religious traditions still.
Interesting. Okay, so there you have it, and nice job, Thanks for the insert. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know that.
Now we're gonna have to fact check that.
So I do know they fought ferociously, and they were a force more than the Germans. What people don't realize, the other thing about the World War II, the Germans were all on speed. By the time, did you know that? By the time they got to Russia, everybody was an addict. And that's why they lost the war. They were all
and they have films of Hitler. Have you ever seen that? Like all pumped up on methamphetamines. Like
I just watched. Did you ever see Downfall?
No.
It's in German subtitles, and it is the story of his last 12 days in the bunker. It is bananas crazy.
The films I saw were like films of him actually watching the Olympics, and he was in the bleachers. I think it was on like a Rogan thing, had cut that little clip out, but it was wild.
Well, and who was who was the black guy that was winning everything too? And Hitler was like, I know that was a big contention during the Olympics at that time. Who was it? He was the athlete. That up, but anyway, so yeah, Hitler is an interesting. I mean, there have been stories about the occult. He survived, the whole thing that he survived. It was never Hitler that was assassinated. It was a double.
It's like Elvis is still alive.
He went to Antarctica.
He flew away in a UFO and went to Antarctica.
Right. There's a whole thing on it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys were thinking of Jesse Owens.
Jesse Owens, yes. He was the athlete that he was a black athlete. He crushed all the German athletes. He was winning like crazy, and Hitler was not very happy about it. But the whole thing is, the whole German, that whole thing was because they talk about the occult. They talk about all of the things Hitler was in possession of. He wanted to, he was a very superstitious guy, and he was Austrian. He wasn't even German. That's the other thing. And it was World War II that really fueled his whole thing, his whole desire to, bring back Germany to its original, very similar to Vladimir Putin and what's going on in the Ukraine. Very, very, very similar.
Yeah, I told you I met a pro-Putin guy. We should have him on the podcast.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, he's an American. He's a dual citizen. I didn't even know you could be a dual citizen. Did you?
I didn't. Especially Russian. Is he Russian?
Right. And he's in the Russian military. He's technically, I can say Armenian. So
he's Armenian.
He's Armenian, but he's in the Russian military.
Well, that's interesting.
And I guess when you're in the military, it's more like the National Guard. So you still have to, like, every few years, you have to go back and all your crew kind of gets together. He actually goes to Siberia every, 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, he's an interesting dude. But he said some crazy shit to me, pro-Putin stuff. And basically, a lot of fake media stuff in the U.S. And Putin's really a genius. And but then he started talking about the Jews in Ukraine, and he said some, nice enough guy, but he started saying some weird shit. And he knows I'm Jewish. And I'll have just as you would have a conversation with, even if they're spewing crazy shit, you want to hear them out,
Yeah. What'd you have, Eli?
Oh, it was just something on the dual citizenship. It's interesting. It says here on the website of the usembassy.gov, U.S. citizens who have at one time held Russian citizenship are often required to renounce Russian citizenship before applying for a Russian visa in the U.S. passport.
How about that?
Yeah. Well, this guy's wild. I don't want to spoil too much. Maybe we can get him on the podcast, but he's been in prison before. He's a wild dude. He was in the Russian military, and he was like a tank cleaner for 5 years. He had a shitty job in the Russian military.
Russians are wired in an entirely different way.
Yeah, he's not had an easy life, and he's been incarcerated overseas, like a lot of crazy shit. So interesting take on things. Again, he said some anti-Semitic things, but I'm not gonna fully judge him, and I'm a Jew, so it's okay for me to say that.
No, really, are you?
And, we talked, we sussed it out, but it is some people are going to believe what they believe.
The Ukraine, they brought stuff Nazis into Eastern Ukraine. It was part of that whole paperclip, Operation Paperclip.
They weren't the smart Nazis came to the U.S. to be scientists.
Well, that's right. And
the dumb ones went to Ukraine.
That's right. And NASA was run by the Nazis for years.
The head of NASA, right, was a Nazi.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they ran it for 20 years. What's interesting, too, about the Ukraine, I think you and I have spoken about this, but when you get into the Ukraine and you get into Vladimir Putin, I'll tell you, it's really hard not to see his point of view. So The first thing is, suppose this happens. Suppose China came into Mexico and put missile artillery across the border to protect Mexicans from us. And say that happened at 9 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
and by noontime, we'd be bombing the shit out of Mexico. Right?
Think
We
so?
would be.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we would be totally bombing the shit out of Mexico. Vladimir Putin had a buffer with the Ukraine and NATO. And the other thing is, Vladimir Putin in I think it was 1992, wanted to become part of NATO. And you want to know something? We didn't allow it. And why didn't we allow it? Because they're our boogeyman. That we use them to instill fear in our population. That's really what Vladimir Putin's for. He's there. So you got this whole thing with Russia. We need them. We don't. I don't need to be, Russia's economy is as big as Italy's. They're not going to march into Poland. They can't even put the Ukraine to bed. And the other thing is those biolabs that are in the Ukraine, there's 7 of them. Vladimir Putin said, if I will stop bombing the Ukraine immediately, if we can send an investigative group, world group, whatever group that was going to be, with Russian and American scientists, put them in those biolabs, and I want to know what's going on. I will stop bombing immediately. And we didn't take that offer. There's been offers on the table to stop and it's been us who has not allowed that to stop. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, the Ukraine is one of the most corrupt places on earth. Between CIA money laundering and, just on and on and on. And people believe it. They believe like it's for real. And I think that when you think about how we propagate false information, we are the largest propagators. Russia can't hold a candle to us, or China can't hold a candle to us. We propagate more misinformation on our own people than anybody imaginable. And when just getting back,
are you fact checking this, Eli? I was asking Eli if he was fact checking this.
Yes. I need to keep up with you guys. You guys are switching topics very, very quickly. So.
Which one are you on, though? Which one are you on? Us being the largest propagators of misinformation?
Yes.
We totally are. So you can look it up. I don't know if you're gonna find it on a Google search, but
on the surface, I don't know.
Yeah, you'd have to go in deep into the dark nets to find that one.
Where all the crazy people are like us.
Yeah, right. Well, there might be some truth to that. But the whole thing with the Ukraine has been just a sore subject. That we're putting $45 billion more into that.
And to what end?
Yeah, how does it end? I mean, you realize
where's the money coming from?
All these wars. If we were to take all these wars and had invested in it at home, all of these wars had no significance on our existence. Maybe going after Osama bin Laden and the whole thing that happened in Afghanistan and after 9/11, maybe. There's a lot of controversy around that, what really happened during 9/11.
We never really did a 9/11 show, did we?
No. And what building was it that collapsed afterwards? They announced that it collapsed, and then
I think, was it 7 or 4? I think I'm confused.
I think it was 7.
And they announced it before it collapsed.
Yeah, they said
like
it
CBS.
collapsed.
Yeah, that was weird.
That whole thing was weird. And I was down there 5 days after. Nobody. I've never talked about this, but I was involved in a company. We were funding it with Saudi Arabian money or Arab money, and 9/11 occurred. We closed on the 10th. 9/11 occurred on the 11th. They were closing on their component of it in New York City on Water Street, and we never closed that deal. And we weren't going to close that deal because they wouldn't allow any foreign money to come into the U.S. shores, especially you had to source it. You had to say where the sources were, who was involved, and the whole deal collapsed. It was a $20 million transaction, but they stopped all money coming into the U.S.
Wow.
It was such a painful process that we went through. when that happened. But there were so many things affected by that that looking back on it, I really wonder what the truth is related to 911.
It's a whole nother podcast. And
But what's that?
I said that's a whole nother podcast, but it's good to bring it back up because it commemorates the people that died. You know, to keep that memory alive, there's going to be like Eli. I don't know how much you remember about that. You know,
Do you even remember 911?
well, it would be secondhand information.
Born in 2005.
Oh my God, I can't even take that.
Right. So he wouldn't have lived, you know, Hannah, my oldest would be. But yeah, it's interesting. There'll be a whole new generation. Hopefully people will remember it. We know how quickly we forget these things.
Yeah. But it's the all the things, because we don't have answers to a lot of it. It all becomes, again, you know, conspiracy theories. But what do we know today? Most conspiracy theories are true. So there aren't too many conspiracy theories left. Oh, come on. He's giving me that look, but that's true.
No, I was wondering if he was fact checking.
A lot of what we thought were conspiracy. Yeah. So, okay, what do we think on this whole Hunter Biden thing? We may as well have a brief discussion about that. What do we think about the Hunter Biden thing?
What was the latest you've heard?
Well, I mean, what did I just hear? Hunter Biden was caught on an email discussing how he was paying all his father's bills for the last 10 years. You know what blows me away? So I have gotten in more discussions with people about this than I even want to think about. But so I have friends who are, I am not a conservative and I'm not a liberal. I would say I'm a libertarian. That's what I like to be. I think both parties suck. I think it's like championship wrestling. I think they share power. They are in and out of power. Being blunt about it, I think it's organized crime families that run the government, from the Bushes to the Bidens. I mean, Bidens are like an Irish mafia. There's no question about it. So it's just so fascinating that when you look at the treatment of certain political parties by the Department of Justice, the FBI, CIA, anybody that thinks that we have legitimate voting practices in the United States of America, you're crazy. You know what the CIA's job is? One, to keep wars going, and two, to make sure people get in that they want to get in. Foreign countries, you don't think that's happening here? Give me a break. They totally know how to rig elections. And so it's just fascinating.
All over the world.
All over the world. It's not just here. It's all over the world. Whoever they've been involved in Israeli elections. They've been involved in Croatian, you name it. They've been involved in a lot of elections. And you don't think that's happening here? Give me a break. And if anything, when you just look at the magnitude of things that have occurred in the last 10 years, you got to be kidding me. You believe this is all legitimate?
You think the candidates are like plugs? You think the candidates are real?
Oh, no, I think that their candidates are. Look, so let's go to the Ukraine, back to Ukraine real quick. You think that guy who was a comedian wasn't plugged in to that as winning that election? Totally. The CIA was totally involved in the Ukraine. It's their bank. Everything that they do runs through the Ukraine, overseas. I don't care, money laundering, drugs, you name it, across the board. They used the Vatican Bank until, 20 years ago, and the Vatican was eventually going to get in trouble for everything that was going on there.
Wait, who used the Vatican Bank?
The CIA. And a lot of organized crime organizations.
Okay.
The mafia has used it to launder money. Look how small the Vatican is, right? It's its own country.
Right.
And I forget what the asset value of that bank was. It was like,
I was going to say, I know the Catholic Church had to sell a lot of property off because of the child sex abuse cases. But I was just wondering the other day, like how much gold, like actual gold, bullion, the Vatican probably has a stash of it. Like all the religious sacred items.
Yeah.
The bank is holding assets worth 5.2 billion euros.
So that's probably what's today with that conversion. It's probably
It's similar. Oh,
yeah.
5.5 billion.
$5.5 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't that much of an increase. So 5.5 billion that's today though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's today. So if you could go back to 1980, I wonder what the value of that asset bank was at that time. That's when they were really.
And does the asset of the bank include all the assets of the
No,
Vatican?
if they're doing it the way a regular bank would, cash deposits, and then they would consider any loans out that would be considered part of the asset value of the bank. So I don't know if they lend money or if they just have cash in there. And I'm sure
it's funny because I just recently read the history of banking and charging interest, basically, because it was like, again, some anti-Semitic comments about Jews handling money. So I started researching banks. Yeah, I know, it was funny.
Yeah.
And but the Torah, and Eli may know this because he's studying Torah, but the Torah and basically Christians started out claiming that they were not allowed, that maybe Jesus said, I don't know the biblical verse. Christians started saying that they couldn't charge interest to other Christians.
right.
So they had Jews do the money handling.
What they call that? They called them Shylocks, or it was the whole right. There was a name. There was a slang name for that.
Yeah, and they even mention them in the Bible, right?
Yeah,
Like money handler.
Shakespeare had mentioned that whole. Did you have something, Eli, over there that you were going to lay on us, proving us all wrong?
Well, actually, I've heard what you guys are talking about. I've heard before about back then. I believe it was the time of either Greece or Rome. I believe it was Rome, where it was illegal for Christians to be in the position to lend money. So they had the Jewish people do it.
Right.
They made the Jews do it because it was against their religion. And so all the Jews were the ones handling money, and that's basically where it all started.
And the Medici family, the whole Medici family in Italy, they started the European banks.
Right. So, and Jews then Jews can't charge interest to other Jews, and Eli can fact check this. So, but they can charge interest to goys, which is why a lot of Jewish bankers today, like, that's what they were saying. That, like, okay, so it's the same way. Like, each religion can't F itself, but they can F the other religion. As far as interest or making money off them. So they both took this biblical thing and kind of just said, well, it's okay if you do it to them, just not your own.
Lovely.
This is way too sensitive. It picks up like my every breath.
Oh, you're good. You won't hear it when it's on the yeah. If you picked up every breath, you would hear me breathing like a, but yeah, the whole money thing, that's a whole other. The Medici family, they were the original. They picked popes. I know that Leonardo da Vinci, right? He had to. On some of his paintings about the divine saints and Jesus, and he had to use families with great wealth in Italy and use their imagery and place it in there as, as Jesus Christ or the apostles. They were all people living in Italy at the time. Did you know that?
They were owned by the church. He was commissioned by the church. So.
They would pay him to have them put into that. And Michelangelo too. He as well was involved in a lot of stuff related to I lost my train of thought. I mean, I just had a blackout. I don't know what happened.
Well, it's like today's sports endorsements. Today athletes are paid to drink. A certain drink or something. So basically, those artists back then, the church paid them to promote Christianity, I guess, right?
Well, I look at the church.
Does God really need to promote itself?
Like God shouldn't need to promote anything,
right? Like Bono from U2 said, the God I worship isn't short of cash. I like that quote. I mean, I think it's pretty good.
Is God Jewish? I guess that's what we got to figure out. I don't know.
Yeah, or like Eli's father says, we didn't choose it, God chose us.
Oh wow, that's
like being a Jew. It's not like it's a burden. It's like a big responsibility to be chosen by God. What does that say about the non-Jews?
It's into religious podcast as we swirl into.
We'll hit all the topics from Bigfoot to
I think we need to cover it. You want but getting back to, I don't even know that I want to go back to the Ukraine. You know what? I'm sick of it all because it's all bullshit. Nobody's telling us the truth.
So back to the mushrooms.
Yeah, but getting back, mushrooms I can talk about all day. We talk about those, but just getting back to the whole Biden thing, that whole situation that we have, I am just blown away by all of the evidence that's there. And all these people defending their position, saying, oh no, Joe Biden was just on the phone talking about the weather. He was talking about ice cream that he likes. He's on with all these world leaders or these guys that are running these not Shell Corp, but the whole oil company out of the Ukraine, a totally corrupt organization. And he was
are you saying that Biden's businesses were really like money laundering businesses out of Ukraine?
Well, they're all money laundering businesses. Look at that cryptocurrency, the kid with the cryptocurrency thing. That was money laundering. The Ukraine's money laundering. This is all ways to pass taxpayer money through the horn out the other side to the 1% that are existing out there. It really is. I mean, the whole thing, we are involved in just these money laundering schemes that are out of control, not being monitored. The FBI is closing their eyes. They're all in on it. The government is all in on this shit, blatantly doing it in front of us. I'm watching it going, I cannot believe what I'm seeing. But there are people who believe that the government is doing just a great job out there.
I don't know. What's the approval rating right now for Biden?
Well, what is you can look that one up. What's the Senate and the
I'll guess, and I'm going to guess. You guess. I'm going to guess 43%.
Oh, I'm going to guess 12%.
I believe it's let's see.
12%?
Was in early August 2023, President Joe Biden's public approval rating held steady at 40% with concerns about the economy, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, 40.
What about the Senate? Look up the Senate's their approval rating, and then look up the national media. Look at those two. But I know they're in the teens. They're in the teens.
Okay.
I guess it depends who holds the.
What's
who
that?
does the poll? I guess it depends who does the poll, right?
Yeah, but on average, they're running way low. I couldn't believe what the Senate and Congress's approval rating was in the polling. It was like way low. And then forget about the media. I think it was like 9% or something. That was what our media, people believing what was coming out of that. It's really incredible where we are as far as the media is concerned. The whole thing, it's just this big swirling pile of dog shit that just perpetuating itself into what do you got?
Okay, so it says the current approval rating is 20%
For Senate?
for
Wow.
Let's see.
It's low.
Congressional job approval percentage
there you go.
Americans approving. Trend from 1974 to 2023. High approval rating is 84% in October 2001. Low is 9% in November 2013.
Wow.
20.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at 20%. I knew it was low.
Wow.
Yeah, makes you feel good about your government.
Both the left wing and the right wing political sides. A lot of them will, just given with my experience, from my experience, both sides will say that they don't trust the government. One will blame the Republicans and the other will blame the Democrats, and some will blame both parties.
Right. Well, that's the championship wrestling thing, right? They both they battle one another. They share power, but I think that just that in itself, there's just such a distrust. You can see it in the population, but there are still people who would, ride and die with their party, which it blows me away. I don't have any faith in either party.
I'm like completely shocked that Biden is running again, and people aren't. Like, he seems to be so
basement last time. He can do it. If it's rigged, let's put it this way: if you're on the football field and your team has the refs all in the bag, you're going to win, right? So you could put a corpse there running now on the Democratic Party. They're going to win because they're going to figure out how to win.
I do like Robert Kennedy.
Well, I was just going to mention him. So
the other candidate, I can't remember her name, but she was Oprah's spiritual advisor. So it's basically, there's basically, I mean, is that not insane? I haven't heard her speak. Maybe I should give her a chance.
Give that a whirl. Why don't we give that a whirl? Why don't we give spiritual advisor
can you imagine?
a shot? I mean, we just gave an Alzheimer's patient a shot. Why don't we give the spiritual advisor a shot? She'll do everything with crystals and chimes. It would be beautiful.
Maybe it would be better. Maybe.
It would be great. What do you think? No, he's not digging that. But I think that we need that kind of change. I mean, she would put crystals all through the government, at the FBI, CIA, and she would be doing sage burning, and it would be great. It would be absolutely beautiful.
What if it worked though? She'd have everybody taking mushrooms.
Oh, it'd be a fabulous thing. But getting back to now, what is the deal with Bobby Kennedy? Why doesn't anybody in the Democratic Party like Bobby Kennedy? Have you talked to anybody about this? I have. I always ask. I'm like, sometimes you're like incoming, it can be pretty bad, but I really, really like Bobby Kennedy.
He was actually just here. I wanted to go. He was here on, I think, Friday, and in a coffee shop less than a mile from my house. But you have to sign like a background. You have to sign on a list, and they were probably with your name and address, and they would probably run. Not that I don't care about a background check. I just didn't want to deal with the crowds and everything. But I thought it was cool because there couldn't be a lot of crowds that would show up at that. The concerns I've heard from people, I think, were like they thought he was too like he was hard on the backs maybe, and I don't remember what else. Honestly,
I would dispute that, because if his facts were backwards, no one has sued him. That whole book with Fauci, if you read that, frightening. I just had Pam Pesta on. She was on our last podcast that got taken down off of YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, within an hour after we posted it. But she read the book that he wrote, and it's pretty damning stuff. And if it was true, why hasn't someone sued Bobby Kennedy?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying yay or nay. This is just what I've heard as far as like, people say they don't like him.
Yeah, I like him.
I worry. I don't know what is that a physical the way he speaks. What's going on with that?
I don't see it anymore. I'm like over it. I keep going back to we've got a guy who his mental faculties are gone, and they were when he started, and we voted him in. So how bad could somebody with a little tremor in his throat? And
I'll be honest with you, I literally can't watch, like, if Biden has a speech or something. I literally don't watch.
You can't watch him?
I can't. I actually feel bad for him, like when he falls, and I literally can't.
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
You're talking about Joe Biden. I know.
I'm sorry. Yeah, not RFK.
Cringy.
Yeah.
It's cringy.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, RFK. I liked it. I haven't listened to that whole Joe Rogan podcast, which was probably 3 or 4 hours, but I did watch a couple other podcasts with him, and the stuff he said seemed to make a lot of sense to me.
He's got a grip on the facts. He's got a grip on the facts.
Oh, I think people don't like that he comes right out and says the CIA killed his uncle, right?
Yeah, but we all
Like
know that really happened. I mean, that's
Right.
not.
But he
I
came right out and said it. Yeah.
What's that? Say that again.
Oh, I said he came right out and bluntly kind of said it. He did. Yeah.
He did. I mean, he stopped short of saying his own father was killed. He says his uncle was killed. I don't think he has come out and said his father was.
Right.
But Sirhan was part of the MK Ultra,
And it could be a risk for him too, couldn't it?
Well, he has requested. Yeah, he's had numerous death threats against him. He went to the Biden administration, requested CIA protection, and they denied him the protection. Fucking Irish gangsters.
Yeah, no, all the candidates were here. Trump was here. Is it?
Oh, really?
Is it
Well,
VBAC?
aren't you a swing state? Isn't Iowa like a?
Well, Iowa is the caucus. They all go to the state fair, and they have a whole stage. I should have gone, but I was just like too many people and too hot.
Oh,
but, yeah. But it's cool. It's not like in New York. All the candidates get up on stage. The fair is huge.
New York.
Yeah, 1 million people go to the fair because it's the state fair. So it's a big deal. So it would have been fun to go. I did actually want to meet RFK, but I didn't end up going.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's got a grip on the facts. I don't know.
Do you think he can stand a chance winning, though?
You know, they said that about Trump.
He would never win if Trump. So Trump, I heard, and maybe Eli can fact check this, but can you be president from prison? I heard that you can.
No, long as I don't think you can if you're a convicted felon, but if you're in trial, if you're waiting in trial, you can.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe you can. I believe there's some felons in Congress and the Senate, so I don't know. Maybe they don't hold that against you. Hold on, Eli's got something.
Okay.
It says, this is from CNN, that the Constitution has very few requirements to serve as president, such as being at least 35 years of age. It does not bar anyone indicted or convicted or even serving jail time from running as president and winning the presidency. I'm not sure about.
See the forefathers, right? They knew we were flawed human beings. So I'm
not sure if they can serve as president or what they can do as president, though.
Right.
Well, I think that they knew
they
that
can run from jail.
Well, you know what? You can run from jail. I think they knew that.
Okay, so yeah, Trump will keep it up.
Yeah, and the people who the people who go to jail are creative. They're creative people.
Right.
They're criminals and they've got very creative minds, and I think that our forefathers knew that, and they were like, you know what? So what? Who cares?
Okay, but my point was, I don't think RFK could beat Trump if Trump runs.
Yeah, I don't know. I can Biden beat Trump? I don't know about that. I don't know.
I didn't think it was going to happen the last time, and it did. But,
well, I mean, I don't know that anybody can beat Biden because I think it's a bullshit. We have a bullshit system that we vote in. And
from what I found on the internet and from what I know, there is no current evidence that there's not enough evidence that could support the overturning of the election, but there is obvious evidence that the election it was rigged due to the social media influence all being on Joe Biden's side, which is probably why he won, because the media ran for Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't have to lift a finger.
Yeah, and quite honestly, if the Russians were going to pick a candidate, they would have picked him because they owned him.
Yeah. Also, Donald Trump was very aggressive with the Russians. He was very. I mean, foreign affairs was where he was good at. What he was good at. He was very aggressive with Russia in the past. He was very aggressive with China, to my knowledge. So
I thought Russia would have wanted Biden to win because he's incompetent.
Yeah,
Oh, of course.
I know, but Vladimir Putin really liked Trump, and I think that because Trump has that alpha male thing going on, and I think, quite honestly, sociopaths that run countries kind of like that, and he's a billionaire, so I think that's a big plus for him. I don't know, call me crazy, but I think that I look at when they went to Saudi Arabia, they had swords, they gave him a goddamn huge. Huge celebration. And then Biden got there and did a fist bump and almost fell on the ground. So, I mean, it's just two completely separate people.
Well, it's going to be wild, and we should cover the election live.
We should. I think we're going to do that.
We'll have a watch party.
Why don't we do that? Yeah, that's a good idea. Mark that down. We'll be doing that. We'll be covering the live elections, calling it in blow by blow. We'll have all the stations on, and we'll see who's
cool.
to say who really won. I just don't have any faith in the system anymore. I really don't. I just think it's so easy with these electronic. I ran a tech company, and I'll tell you what, every tech guy that worked for me said the easiest thing in the world to hack is a voting machine. They don't have a firewall. You can get into them. Your 12-year-old hacker can get into a voting machine. It was like a joke amongst tech people. So when they're saying, see, I have a huge problem with when they create, you can't touch it, you can't talk about it. This recent indictment that came up is just on the voting thing, right, in Georgia. And they're like, nobody can talk about it. Nobody can have an opinion about it. No one can say, let's look at it. Everybody forgets this, right? In the very beginning of the Trump presidency, he knew he was sending in teams of people into states that were problem states to do audits on the voting process. And you want to know something? Not one fucking state would allow that group to go in and audit their voting process. Do you remember that? That was right in the very beginning of the Trump presidency.
I don't remember that, but yeah.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let it happen. That has got to tell you something.
They wanted to audit in the middle of the. Say that again.
They were going to Illinois. They were going to all of those big swing states, and they were going in and they were going to do a voting audit on the process to see if it was legitimate. And not a single state allowed that group. And they were both Democrats and Republicans. It was bipartisan, and they would not allow the state and audit their process.
Interesting. I think one of the things they got Trump on yesterday or today, I think it was in Georgia, I don't know, but one of them was like a recorded telephone conversation of just basically I think he was looking for one vote. I don't know. I don't remember exactly.
No, that has been out there, but I mean that. So,
or indicted for, right? So that's being accused of.
Here's where people don't realize what's going on. What's going on right now in politics or just in general, they're making it so they're taking the election process and saying, if you have anything to say about it, we're going to arrest you. We're going to investigate you. It reminds me of the Roman Catholic Church during the 15th century. Nobody was allowed to read. You had to step in line with what the church said. You couldn't question anything. They disembowel you. They chop your fucking head off. I mean, we're kind of in the same place, but you're not allowed to discuss. Have you ever? I have. I tried to have a discussion with a couple of people about the election process. You can't talk about it. It's like it's the tomb of Jesus Christ. You cannot go near it. You can't talk about it. You got to be when shit like that happens. Let's think about that for a minute. You got the voting process. You've got the vaccine, the whole vaccine thing. You're not allowed to talk about those things. And we talked about this in the last podcast with Pam Pest.
You're saying on major social media, they'll take your video down.
Well, they took the video down.
Yeah. Pam
Pesta knows what she's talking about, and she's functional medicine. She's spot on. She knows what we got into vaccines, and you can't talk about those. and I'm not even going to get into it because we're going to put this up on YouTube, so I'm not going to get into it and create a problem for this
Do you guys
podcast.
do you use Rumble?
Yeah, we do. But I mean, I the YouTube carries water for.
Yeah. There's a lot more viewers and potential.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just there's just things you can't say.
Yeah, there's trigger words.
I was just about to get right into the vaccine. I was going to go through everything. Here's this, here's that. I think they took Robert Kennedy down off of YouTube on numerous occasions.
Really?
I don't know how he keeps getting up, but he's just doing all these different podcasts. And I'm just going back to him for a little bit. I think he is coming in on the down low, underneath the wire, and I think he's got a lot of momentum, a lot more than we know. Again, the polls were wrong the first time.
I mean, there was still control in the media, back in TV when you had TV commercials, right?
Yeah.
What was the CIA project we've talked about where the CIA gets embedded in the media?
Project Mockingbird.
Right. Okay.
And that still exists today.
Right. So that's been happening it's just the internet is a better tool to perpetuate faster to more.
Well, it wasn't 10 and 15 years ago, over a course of 10 years, the New York Times was running out of money. That billionaire from Mexico, I can't remember his name, he ended up buying the New York Times, but he was plowing shitloads of money into the New York Times. What has happened with all the media companies, the CIA came in and said, we'll fund your companies, but you have got to, first thing in the morning, here are the talking points, here's what we want you to say. And they all went for it. And you know who talks about this frequently is Robert Kennedy Jr., because he knows. He fucking knows what they're all up to, the CIA, the FBI. And the FBI just got nailed. Christopher Wray just got nailed on this whole thing with the Catholic Church where they were silencing these nuns who were speaking out against various social things. And that now is in contention, but nothing's going to happen. All this shit happens, people get caught, and off you go. I said, federal government. If you're a sociopath, federal government. You should be working for the federal government. You can fucking kill people. You could kill that whole thing that happened in Afghanistan. I always talk about this because I just can't even believe it. You and I talk about this all the time. 7 kids, mom and dad, and an uncle bringing water to the gate. They get fucking blown to pieces because they were identified as a terrorist action, and they killed everybody. And we heard another word about that, and that was a distraction. They had to do something, right? We lost 13 soldiers on that gate. They don't even talk about how many were maimed, hurt, killed. I just saw the interview with that young soldier who was a sniper who had the guy in his sights and did not get the order to kill the guy who detonated the bomb, killed 13 people of our soldiers. God knows how many other Afghanis were killed and everybody else.
Right.
We don't know the answer to that. And we retaliated by killing an Afghani family, bringing water with their kids, 7 fucking kids, innocent children. And we do that, and nothing happens to us. Nothing.
We did a good job suppressing that story in major media too.
Everybody forgets. We got the attention span of shrews. We're on to the next thing. What's happened with the Kardashians? Nobody gives a shit. We talked about this, the whole alien thing, right? People should be like, what the fuck is going on?
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
30 years ago, if we had the evidence and we knew what was going on that we have today, there'd be people throwing themselves out of buildings because they'd be like, holy shit, I don't want to become, fish food for the aliens.
Look what remember Orson Welles' War of the Worlds or whatever?
Oh, yeah. And that was great.
They did kill themselves, didn't they? Yeah.
People thought it was real, and they did. They were killing their kids, them. It was a huge thing that happened when he did that. Brilliant guy, though, right? He made people believe that we were under attack.
When was that? The 60s or 50s?
War of the Worlds. I don't know. What War of the Worlds? Orson Welles.
56.
It was like 1949, maybe.
Oh, early. Wow.
But it was, that was when radio was
1938.
1938. So it was
Holy
10.
crap! Okay, I didn't realize it was that early.
Yeah, no, he was way ahead of his time. Orson Welles. He was an interesting. The other thing too, I was just going to say, talking to Orson Welles, the movie Babylon. Everybody,
I want to see that. Yeah, you've seen all these movies.
Have you seen it?
I have not. No. You're watching Oppenheimer, and I'm at Barbie.
Oh my God, it is fucking crazy shit. And
is it like Netflix or in the theaters?
No, I saw it
On
on.
Netflix.
Is it on Netflix? I saw it streaming.
Oh, cool.
Good. It's excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody should watch it. It's a little, it's got some shit, the underbelly of the Hollywood scene, but it's definitely worth watching. So I'm promoting that. I'm promoting Oppenheimer. So those two movies should be something everybody.
I heard that could possibly be the best movie in 10 years.
Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a heady movie. It's not like an action-packed movie. It's a heady movie, and it's intriguing because of all the shit that we were involved in, and all of the. When you get to the end of that movie, the propaganda, you can see where we started to ramp that up and where we started to weaponize all the departments inside the government, and it's fucking frightening.
What are you guys' opinion on the Barbie movie?
I actually thought it was funny. I know people were accusing it of being too woke, and I don't know. Who's that ultra conservative trans person? I saw.
That's like.
Are you guys? Yeah, it could have been him. Do you guys ever watch or listen to Tim Pool?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was on Tim Pool, and they were talking about it, and I saw Barbie once. My wife's seen it twice. I wasn't offended. I actually liked it better than I thought I would. I thought it was going to be pure idiocy.
Yeah.
But it was cute. It was like some people thought it was hard on men.
Aren't they making masculinity a negative?
Well, that's what. So some people accuse it of that. I didn't see that. I thought it was like a fart. I've had this accusation, and I'll tell you guys. I tell this to my wife all the time. I think Hollywood shits on men. So in other words, the father figure in every TV show and every movie is always an idiot and the last one to know. So just take any sitcom, any rom-com, there's so many TV shows and movies that portray the figurehead or fatherhead of the household as kind of a dumbass. I don't know, Leave It to Beaver. But usually it's like the mom is the backbone, and it's maybe a reflection of reality. I don't know. Maybe all dads are idiots, but I don't think so.
I don't know. Frightening thought. I'd like to think I have a better self-esteem about myself.
I hope so. Yeah, Eli, what do you think of the head of your household?
I'm sorry.
Your father.
Okay.
Yeah. We're gonna get in trouble.
I'm just saying that because
He's talking about how.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
All right.
Yeah, I'm trying to be funny. Anyway, I thought Barbie was fine. I mean, it had funny moments. I don't think it shit on men too much because I think, like I said, Hollywood has already been saying that the dad's an idiot or whatever.
Yeah, I don't care. You know what? I don't care. I think throw it out there. I don't give a shit.
It was funny. It was cute. It was like a woman's empowerment movie.
Oh God. What do you think?
Well,
controversy surrounding you guys know what the 9-dash line is?
No.
It's so the Chinese government claims that they own Taiwan and the sea around Taiwan, between Taiwan and China.
Yeah.
They claim to own this large body of ocean, and on maps and globes in China, they mark this 9-dashed line, this line encompassing Taiwan and the ocean, the space, the international waters they claim to own. And in the Barbie movie, they have a map of the globe with the 9-dash line on it, which is usually featured on Chinese maps.
There you have it.
It's a conspiracy.
They don't play well in China. I think that's probably what they're.
Did you gentlemen see Barbie or no?
No.
Okay.
I was in Oppenheimer, and everybody went.
It was in the next theater over. I am going to see Oppenheimer. I've been excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any desire to see the Barbie movie, but I mean, I would see it. I would watch it when they stream it. But I don't care. I'm like, let anybody make whatever they want and let the market decide if they want. It's a huge hit. It's huge.
I think as a visual arts guy that I am, I think visually it was fun, and the music soundtrack was funny, like 80s stuff. And then any Barbie owners, I was going to say women, but there could have been boys that played with Barbies too. I don't think I had a Mork and Mindy doll. I didn't have any. I might have had a G.I. Joe guy.
Oh, there you go. Girls play with Barbie dolls.
Sure. And
do we know if Ken's a guy or gal, right? He doesn't.
Yeah, but there was historical references to the actual, like there was. Did you know there was a pregnant Barbie?
Yeah, they have a Down syndrome Barbie. They have a
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the movie, there was a Barbie in a wheelchair, right? I heard that.
There was, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's. I could care less. I'm like, let it fly. I mean, I'm like, go see Caligula, go see Barbie, go see.
I'm just, I actually.
I don't care what you say.
I'm like a true Jew, and I can say this because I'm a Jew. I don't know how many times I've said this in the
I don't
podcast,
know. Let's count that. We should have a little bell. Ding, ding.
Right. But I've been capitalizing on this Barbie trend, and I've been buying Barbie stuff and reselling it.
Is that right?
Yeah. Only to the goys. Only to the goyim. Yeah.
I'm at a loss for words at the moment. I really don't.
I mean, why not? It's the rage now. It's not like they're making Oppenheimer dolls.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be funny. They should start doing.
They should do the little bombs. They should make those little, like a Rubik's cube. When you see how they put it together, they can make a Rubik's cube bomb because they were like a very specific way they went together.
Well, so, gentlemen, I got to wrap it up. But are you going to lead us into what the next podcast will be talking about?
I'm hoping we're going to get you know who, Darth Vader.
Okay, yeah, that'll be a good one.
Yeah, next week. So we're going to be doing one on food. We've got a couple of other subject matters that are being researched. We're going to be doing more. This was really our first video podcast, so it was kind of broad. We were just testing it out. I think it worked pretty good. We've got some pretty interesting guests coming up in the next few weeks going into the fall. So, but with that said, be fearless, and we'll catch everybody on the next podcast. Bye.
Thank you.